Squad Busters just went global and a new meta has formed, so it's time for a new tier list. Since last time, I've unlocked more characters, but not all of them, so we'll have a full tier list with time, but I won't rank units that I haven't played. Also, since I'm making this tier list based off my experiences, it's important to note that about half my units are 3-star and half of them are 2-star. However, most of you guys should be around 2-star, so I feel like it works out. That being said, let's start off with the Archer Queen. So Archer Queen supposedly makes your range units attack faster, and I don't really know the difference in that, so I don't really know how much it actually affects. I haven't really noticed a difference when using Archer Queen, but overall it's just a solid overall range and stuff. All right, Archer Queen, it does decent damage. I feel like some people online, they're like, oh my gosh, Archer Queen does so much damage. It does decent damage. I don't think it's like crazy OP. She does have her flaming arrows, and she can also hit multiple units at once, which is really nice. So she has a lot of versatility. Overall, I'd put Archer Queen in the A tier, right? Just a very strong range unit overall. You really can't go wrong with Archer Queen. Barbarian is also a similar story where it's very well rounded. All right, if you get Barbarian early game, you can take out units really well. Those blue boxes get shredded by Barbarian stuff, and it's really easy to upgrade Barbarian to elite mid-match, especially once you get the 3-star evolution. On top of that, if you're gonna battle someone, Barbarian is just really nice. All right, it has a nice balance between damage and tankiness. It's overall just a great unit. It doesn't farm, all right? It can't do everything necessarily, but it's overall just a superstar unit. You really can't go wrong with Barbarian as well. Barbarian goes into the A tier. It's just a solid unit at all parts of the game. So next we have Barbarian King, and Barbarian King, oh my goodness, it is so much value. I believe it's the tankiest unit in the game. It has 3,200 HP, but when it's fused, it has 11,200 HP. And so it's basically like LT grade when it's fused together. So if you're an epic overload or a mode where you can get 3 Barbarian Kings, you can go absolutely crazy. On top of that, its damage is really good. All right, it does a little bit more damage to the Barbarian, and also has its Iron Fist ability, which just helps out every once in a while. So it's kind of just like an OP Barbarian. Gotta go S tier for Barbarian King. It's basically a tank that also does decent damage. So next we have B, and honestly, B does decent damage with her main attack. All right, just her main stinger attack, it's pretty good. But where B really shines is when she picks up hives. All right, if you get B next to hive, you'll have bees surrounding you. You have like 3 bees. You can also pick up multiple to get 6 bees, 9 bees, and you have this giant ring of bees around you, and it makes it really hard to contact you. Anyone who wants to attack you is gonna have to go through the bees to get it. And what's really cool is the ability is always going, and so if someone's chasing you down or you're chasing someone down, the ability will still be going, meaning you can hit people while running without stopping, which is really cool. Now you still have to find hives to pick up to use Bee's ability, and you have to kind of learn where they are on the map. Most of them are in the sides of the center, and then the bees also do disappear after some time. They last a decent amount of time and stuff, right? You're kind of gonna forget that they're there after a little bit. Despite that, we're gonna put B in the A tier here, right? B is just so gosh darn good despite having to get hives, and the bees just help out with everything, whether they're trying to take out boss units, take down enemies, take out anyone. I guess they can't destroy trees and crops and stuff, but like it's so good. So next we have Bo, and I do not have Bo's 3-star ability where it gives him mines to place down, but the thing is, Bo doesn't even need the mines. Bo is actually really good. I know all the units are at the top of the tier list right now, but Bo deals extra damage to monsters, and that means when you're trying to take down monsters, especially early game, he'll absolutely shred through them. And so I actually consider Bo to be a farming unit, all right? Bo will farm monsters and stuff, but he's absolutely garbage for PvP, all right? If you get in a battle, Bo will just get absolutely shredded. Despite Bo being terrible in PvP, I'm gonna put Bo in the A tier. I think Bo is just super good. He's super good early game. You're gonna struggle a little bit late game if you run into anyone and stuff. He's just he's a really nice unit. So next we got Chicken, and in the recent update, Chicken did get a buff from 1 turbo to 2 turbos given, and if he gets 3-star ability, you have 3 turbos given from the Chicken. Chicken's a weird story because turbo is kind of the name of the game in Squad Busters. The faster you can get around, the more progress you can get. You'll get to trees faster to chop them down. You get to bosses faster. You can take down people who are running away from you. You can run away from people who are chasing you. Speed is super duper good in Squad Busters, but I feel like in a lot of modes, it is possible to get speed, all right? You have Golden Boost, Turbo Overload. There's also other speed units which are really nice. It's a little bit weird because Chicken's not always useful and stuff, all right? Doesn't seem to put a lot of damage output early game and stuff, but having the extra turbos is really nice, especially if you build them up, all right? If you get like a fusion Chicken, now you have 9 extra turbos built up. It's absolutely crazy. But Chicken is really nice. I'd say it's even more important like late game and stuff because there's so many people contested in the middle, and it's important to try and get the gem mine and get out. So I'm gonna put Chicken in the B tier here. It honestly is a really good unit, especially if you get it late game, all right? It is just super good, and it can be a lifesaver with its turbos and stuff, especially if you save them up and use them all at once. But I feel like the ones in the A tier, they're like good no matter what, whereas with the Chicken and stuff, it's gonna become more valuable as the game goes late, because early on, Chicken's not really a good farming unit. It's not really good for taking down bosses. It honestly is an A tier unit, but the standards for A tier are so high, I gotta give it B tier. So next we have Colt, and Colt is like the damage dealer, right? He technically has the same DPS and health as B, but he has his bold storm ability, and he's a common, all right? You will find Colt a lot and he just provides so much support. And I feel like he's just better because he's a common. Like if he was an epic, I'd be like, why would you pick Colt? You know, just go Barbarian King or something, right? But because you can get him so frequently and stuff, he is such a good support and stuff. He just does so much damage. He's very, 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 very good at damage. And so honestly, I would put Colt at the top of the A tier here. Colt is very, very good. I choose him so often and stuff. He's just very, very nice. So next we have Dynamite, and I got Dynamite super the other day, and I was so hyped, all right? It says Dynamite gets a larger blast, and I was so hyped to see Dynamite just absolutely shred through swarm units. Dynamite does no damage at all right? He does 90 damage. Colt does 200. He's like one of the weakest units in the game damage wise, and that's crazy because he's like throwing dynamite, right? Like he is literally like one of the best damage dealers in Brawl Stars. I feel like every single time I use him, I regret it, right? He just does no damage, even against the tiny little bot robots, right? Like he's just doing so little damage. He is just so weak, and technically his splash is good, right? If there's a lot of skeletons from Witch or something, maybe Dynamite can make a play, but even then, I would choose basically anyone else instead of Dynamite here. He just does such little damage, and I'm not sure if he can actually throw things over walls, but even if he could, I feel like that wouldn't even come to play that much. So Dynamite gotta go to the F tier here. Dynamite just not seeing a lot of value. Definitely needs a big damage buff here. So next we have El Primo, the tank, who actually does more damage than Dynamite, all right? Like El Primo, who's a tank. El Primo has this flying elbow drop, which is nice support. He's just overall a very nice support unit. He can help defend your range units. I honestly still really haven't figured out the synergy. Like, is El Primo better with Colts, or is it better with Barbarians? Like, what does El Primo synergize most with? His damage output is very, very low, kind of like Dynamite's in a sense, but he's a tank, and it'll help protect your units and stuff. Right now, the name of the game is farming, taking out units and stuff, and I feel like tanks, unless you're going into battle against another person, they're really not that necessary and stuff. I feel like there's plenty of healing in this game where you don't really need a tank right now. So honestly, I'm gonna put it in C tier. Barbarian King is a tank and stuff, but Barbarian King does good damage and stuff along with the tanking. So that's why that's S tier. But since El Primo is just a tank, gotta go C tier here. So next we have Goblin, which will give you coins when it spawns in, and that makes it insane in doppelgangers. I know I say it every single time I talk about Goblin, but it is absolutely S tier in doppelgangers. It is so fun in doppelgangers. It's so good. Outside of doppelgangers, it's a little hard to use. Like maybe in double up, maybe with trader farming if you don't have another way to farm. But honestly, it's not a bad unit on its own. When you use Mavis and Greg and you're done farming, they kind of just sit there in your team. Like they're still gonna do a little bit of damage. Honestly, I didn't realize it, but it actually does more damage than Archer Queen, all right? It does 170 damage, which is actually really, really good. And so maybe I need to try Goblin more. Just look at this. I actually had no idea it did so much damage. That's crazy. But the thing is, even though it does a lot of damage and stuff, it doesn't really have any other advantages with PvP. Like Archer Queen still has an advantage with her flaming ability and the fact that she's a ranged unit, and Goblin has to get super duper close with very little HP. So I'll put Goblin in the B tier for now, just because it's so good in doppelgangers but struggles everywhere else. But honestly, I feel like with good healing, it could possibly do some work in other modes. So next we have Greg, and Greg's damage is not that good. At least he does more than Dynamite for some reason. That doesn't make any sense. But Greg is kind of like Bo in the sense where if you go in a 1v1, you're really gonna lose, all right? Greg is not good in PvP. However, Greg gives a ton of loot for chopping down trees. He is super good. Honestly, if I could choose any starting unit in the game, I would go with Greg first. There's always trees in the map. There's always the trees nearby. They're really easy to find, and Greg is just super good. And if you have 3-star Greg, once you get his fusion, he will one-shot trees. And so what I've been doing lately is I grab Greg, and then I get some Colts and stuff, and I go to the middle, and I just farm boss units. You know, maybe get some bows as well. And then when I can't farm boss units and I'm waiting for them to respawn, I farm trees, and I can just go back and forth because there's trees all around the map. It's very easy to find the trees, and the trees give a lot of loot, all right? You'll get a ton of coins for them, but you'll also get gems. And so Greg's honestly a viable way to get gems, just super good. On top of that, Trader is super duper nice right now. We'll talk about Trader once we get to him, but Greg synergizes really well with Trader now. So Greg, honestly, this is a crazy thing. I'm going to put him in the S tier and stuff, all right? I love seeing Greg in my matches and stuff. And of course, he's going to struggle in 1v1s. He's going to struggle to boss units and stuff. But the thing is, when you use Greg as intended with farming, Greg is just super duper good, all right? When I don't get Greg in my loadout, I get super sad. It's like, dang, like Greg is just so nice. He's very quick. There's lots of trees. Like I could go on and on. Greg is actually an S tier. I don't even think Greg is overpowered. I think he's just really nice in this meta with the Trader and with the current maps. So next we have Hog Rider, and Hog Rider is so nice, all right? The second you get a Hog Rider, it changes the entire game forever. If you don't know, basically whenever a Hog Rider goes into grass, it gives your entire team a burst of speed. And what's nice is you only need one for this to happen. So you get one Hog Rider, and suddenly your squad is like 2 times faster. It is so nice, and speed is so important in squad busters. I'd say typically you want to go for farming units early early game, but by the mid game point, I'm always looking for a Hog Rider. I'm just going through like, yo, can I get a Hog Rider here? Please, please, please. Because once you get a Hog Rider, the game changes so much here, right? You could run away from people. Like, speed is so good, and it's honestly like a better chicken stuff because it recharges so fast in the grass. You basically have permanent speed boost. It's so good. So honestly, I'm gonna put a Hog Rider in the S tier here. Hog Rider is so nice. So next we have Mavis here, and Mavis is a fantastic starting unit, kind of like Greg in a sense. You go for carrot patches instead of trees, and carrot patches are very easy to find early game, right? So you get a Mavis, you go to the carrot patches, and you get a lot of loot, right? So sometimes if carrot patch have like 2x2, you can have 2x4s, you can get a lot of loot. The problem is the carrot patches are a lot harder to find than trees, and that's just kind of like my perception and stuff. I haven't actually like mapped out how many there are on each map. They're just very spread out, and on top of that, you're not gonna find carrot patches in the middle of the map, all right? And so as the vines close in, there's way less carrot patches in the map, whereas there's still trees in the mid. So Greg is actually a lot better late game than Mavis, but the thing is, it doesn't feel like Mavis is better than Greg early game. Like, Mavis is great, absolutely great. You pair Mavis with Trader, it's super duper OP, but carrot patches, they're harder to find, and also they take longer to take down, right? Like, as you get Fusion Mavis, Mavis will speed up, but I feel like it's just a lot more work to find carrot patches. And honestly, this is just my perception, but I feel like Mavis gives less loot than Greg. Like, honestly, every time I get Greg, I just feel like I'm swarming in loot. I just feel like Mavis does a little bit less. And part of that might be that Mavis's ultra ability is she gets bonus loot from patches. So I bet once you get Mavis ultra, Mavis is just absolutely crazy. Whereas if you get Greg's ultra ability, trees drop a heart, which is not really a buff to farming. And so I do want to note that I am comparing a 2-star Mavis to a 3-star Greg. And so in terms of max units, I don't really know how to tackle this. But right now, with my current loadout, in terms of farming, I put Mavis slightly under Greg. I'm gonna put Mavis at the top of the A tier because Mavis is still really good. I know I'm criticizing Mavis. Mavis is really good, all right? Top of the A tier. I'd have no bad things to say if Greg didn't exist. And Mavis is just absolutely crazy with the Trader. So you'll have a lot of value with Mavis if you ever use her. She's super duper good. So next we have Medic. And Medic, like the chicken, was someone I rated really highly last time. But as you unlock more characters, you kind of realize that there's other options, right? Instead of chicken, you can get Hog Rider. And instead of Medic, you can get Pam or Battle Healer. There are some modes where I feel like Medic is just so good. Epic Overload is a key one where I just feel like I'm constantly low in health in Epic Overload. Maybe just get into a lot of battles with Epic Overload because people aren't farming there. But like, Medic is so good in that mode. I'd put Medic kind of like Hog Rider, where it's like, it changes everything up once you get it, all right? It's just really nice. Heals your entire team for the rest of the game, as long as you can keep it alive, of course. And as you evolve Medic, it will get even faster because it's kind of slow as a baby unit, honestly. So I'm going to put Medic at the top of the A tier here, but you really only need one Medic. And I feel like healing is such an important part of the game. Unless you're just farming to the outside, healing is just so essential in this game. And so it's kind of like Hog Rider, where I'm just looking for one. By the mid game here, I'm looking for a Medic. I don't want to get one early game necessarily and stuff, but it's super duper nice to have, especially late game. So next we have Nita, and Nita is kind of like El Primo in that I haven't quite figured out how to use her yet. Like, she's always good. Every time I use Nita, I'm very satisfied. She's absolutely crazy at doppelgangers because her bears stay behind after you switch off from Nita. Also, I don't have Nita's 3-star evolution yet. I only have her at 2 stars here. So I am missing her Enraged Bear ability, and I feel like that could be really good here. In terms of damage, she actually does slightly less than Dynamite of all people. So she's actually really weak, but her bear is pretty gosh darn decent. This is very weird, but I'm gonna go B tier with Nita here. Honestly, I can't see how much damage her bear does, so I really don't know and stuff. Like, maybe her bear does more damage than I think, but I'm gonna put her in B tier. So next we have Pam, and Pam does okay damage and stuff. I wouldn't want Pam at the start, kind of like the Medic. But what Pam does is she builds a heal station every single time you open a chest. And this heal station radius, it's massive. It gets even bigger if you fuse 3 Pams together. But basically, Pam can provide healing for the entire team, and her healing rate is crazy, all right? Medic is super slow. Pam basically makes it so that every single time you open a chest, your squad is at full HP. Like, it is just super duper good. And it's kind of tricky because if you can't find a chest, you really can't take advantage of Pam. Pam is really good when you're opening up chests non-stop. But I find in most games, I find myself opening chests constantly. Like, even when I'm late game and chests are 50 coins, there's so many coins at that point where I find myself still able to open up chests. So this is a little crazier, but I'm going to put Pam in the A tier here. Pam is just super good. If you can't open a chest and the chest cost is too high, you are absolutely screwed. Medic will be better in those scenarios, but I feel like there's so many good scenarios with Pam, and her healing is so fast. It doesn't matter how low you are, you get a Pam and boom, you're back to full HP. So next we have Royale King, and he deploys Royal Recruits, and these Royal Recruits, they are so gosh darn slow. And the big problem with that is this is a game about speed, right? You're trying to run around and stuff, and so you can't really stay with your Royal Recruits. On top of that, if anyone's afraid of your royal recruits, they can just run away, all right? Royal recruits are so gosh darn slow. They seem pretty weak too. I feel like I just never see value from Royale King, all right? Like, he's just very underwhelming and stuff. And I feel like what makes him even worse is that he's an epic unit, all right? When you're surrounded by Archer Queen and Barbarian King, right? It just makes Royale King look even worse. And so it's crazy because I'll be playing Epic Overload and I'll be choosing non-epic units when I get Royale King because I don't want to choose Royale King. So honestly, I'm gonna put him F tier. I don't know who is worth, Dynamite or Royale King. They're both a struggle and stuff. I'll put Royale King slightly ahead here. So next we have Shelly, and Shelly is one of those units where it's extremely important to get her 3-star ability. It just changes her DPS so much. And so last time I put Shelly very, very low because I didn't have her 3-star ability, but now that I do, she's pretty gosh darn decent, and her super is really, really nice. Her super actually goes really, really far, and it's very intimidating, all right? Especially early game, but I'd say any part of the match, when you see someone with a Shelly, it's time to run. Up close, Shelly's just absolutely crazy. So Shelly's really, really good into other squads. However, Shelly is not like invincible and stuff. If you're facing someone with ranged units, you could still be taken down. But into Primo, Barbarian, Hog Rider, Shelly will just absolutely destroy them. There's nothing they can do. So Shelly, I'm gonna put in the middle of the A tier here. Bo is definitely better into bosses and stuff, but Shelly's just very good like all around and stuff. And Shelly is like the greatest intimidation brawler and stuff, all right? If you're about to battle someone and you see they have Shelly, you think twice. Even if you're ahead of them, even if you have more damage to them, you're just like, I don't want to battle Shelly. So next we have Trader, and in the last update, Trader got a buff by 1 gem. All right, Trader currently gives 2 gems for every 15 coins, and if you get it to its tier 3, which I do not have, it will give 3 gems for every 15 coins. But here's the deal, even though I only have Trader at tier 2 and I only get 2 gems instead of 3, Trader is crazy. If you're in any mode that gives a lot of coins, I'm talking loot search, pinata party, whack-a-mole, and I feel like half the game modes give a lot of coins, Trader will just go absolutely crazy and stuff, all right? You don't want to use him early game. I'd say as a starting unit, you want to start with Greg, you want to start with Mavis and stuff, but I try and go for Trader as soon as possible afterwards. And if I don't get a good farming unit early game, sometimes I just start with Trader just because. Trader is so good at getting gems that you can literally ignore the middle. You could just sit on the outside and farm. You can ignore players. You can literally just sit in your own because Trader just gives so many gems. He's so good, and you can even use him in modes where there's no buff to coins. He's just that good because there's so many coins in all game modes. One thing to know is that when he spawns gems, he throws them in the air. So if you're running with Turbo and he converts coins to gems, then he's gonna throw the gems in the air and you're not gonna be able to collect them because you're running too fast. You kind of have to go back and then collect the gems, and it's a little awkward. But even despite that, he's just so good. Like, because the win condition of the game is who has the most gems, Trader literally S tier and stuff. Now Trader, you have to be careful because if you get into 1v1, you get absolutely destroyed. And because you have so many gems with Trader, you are a target and stuff. But if you can stay alive and avoid other people, Trader will just go absolutely crazy. Now lastly, the Witch, and the Witch does decent damage overall, right? If you use Witch into any unit, you're gonna get value and stuff. The Witch's main attack is nice. However, the Skeletons are another story, all right? They're nice support and stuff. If you're attacking a unit that can't really move around like a boss unit, they're really nice support. But the Skeletons, not only are they weak, right? They're really easy to take out, but on top of that, they are so slow, all right? They're like royal recruits, and that you can just run away if you're afraid of them. And so honestly, the Skeletons don't feel like they get any value with the Witch. It's all about her main attack. Like, her main attack will do decent, but her Skeletons honestly just don't do a lot. And even when you get her 3-star evolution and get a Skeleton Barrel spell, it's still, they're too slow. Even if you could throw the Skeletons at people, they're very, very slow. This feels weird, but I'm gonna put Witch in B tier here, all right? The Skeletons are just so slow. And that is my tier list for June 2024. So let me know what you guys think of it and stuff. I'm sure you guys will have some things to say. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and be sure to brush your teeth.